I'm Gab. He's Jules. Blue skies over West London. Jules, we've had the first week of the season in the Premier League. Not just that, other stuff around Europe. Bayern winning the German Super Cup. Real Madrid needing the late winner from the new Gonzalo Garcia. Barcelona looking deadly. Francesco Pio Esposito too. But we need to focus on the Premier League because remember we used to talk about the big six, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Arsenal win. City need 2 goals in the last 7 minutes to go and avoid defeat against Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Liverpool need a penalty in the 5th minute of injury time to avoid defeat at Newcastle. Hull beat Manchester United. Spurs losing to Brentford. Chelsea don't want to jinx it. They play in a few hours away to Fulham, but the club's kind of chaotic right now. Sorry, before we get into Newcastle Liverpool, which is our big game.
Yeah, great first weekend.
It's great because the big teams lost, or does this kind of just reinforce what we said, that the gap is just enormous, and these other teams are just behind right now. They're behind where they want to be in terms of preparation, in terms of chemistry. I mean, there's no other explanation, right?
No, and you can question why you're not ready when the season starts, really, especially if you're a top club with a lot of resources, with a lot of money to sort out your recruitment, to sort out your transfer window, to get those players ready. And even if some were at the World Cup, some of them came back a long time ago. So it was good to see so many things happening. I don't think it's great for the Premier League that the big teams don't do that well on the first weekend. But again, they will get better. They will get stronger. For some of those teams, the starting 11 will look very different in 2 weeks' time or even a month time. So there's, for some, nothing to worry too much about. But I thought it was great that, it was not so straightforward, especially for the big boys.
Let's talk Newcastle and Liverpool. I think we have to start with Newcastle. I mean, we often point out flaws in the other team, but Newcastle, you have this guy, Matthias Jaisler. He's the next big thing in football at Salzburg. Decides to take the money and go to Al Ahly in the Saudi Pro League. Some of us thought, all right, did he kind of lose his edge while he was out there? Because it is a very different environment in which to work. Comes back, replaces Eddie Howe, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
On a team where confidence is low. They've had to sell everybody because, hey, guys, guess what? You can have very wealthy Saudi owners. You can be owned by Mubada, or not Mubada, but the Public Investment Fund.
Yeah.
But you still have to follow the rules, and they're following the rules. And so Anthony Gordon leaves, Bruno Guimaraes leaves, Sandro Tonali leaves. And he just goes out with this 4-2-4, if you want to call it that. Fast guys, solid defending, a lot of guys missing, Joe Linton, Dan Burn, so on. And I thought they just carved Liverpool up in transition time and again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the game, really. It's that verticality, the transition, playing so quick forward. And they will have issues because they can't play like that. They need a plan B, and there's no plan B. So when they play against teams that are not as open as Liverpool were on Sunday, I think they will struggle maybe a bit more. But for this game, with the atmosphere that was there at St. James's Park after the tribute, especially beautiful tribute for Kevin Keegan, obviously, who passed away during the summer and played for both teams, it was perfect. That's exactly what Liverpool cannot defend against right now. But that's also what Iraola and Bournemouth last season struggled against, those transitions. So he will have to sort that out for the Reds. But for Newcastle, that side of the plan was perfect, was great. Wisa is great in that. Osula is great in that. The wingers are great for that. The problem is that it's difficult to do it over 90 minutes to start with. And also, at times, you need a bit of control. You need to keep the ball. You can't just go vertical all the time.
I was really disappointed in Liverpool. They don't look anything like Bournemouth. And I'm a huge Iraola fan. And I understand why, because it takes time to have the chemistry. And I mean, the way even Iraola's Bournemouth wasn't Iraola's Bournemouth in his first few months there. It takes time. However, I think I have this other concern, which is that these pieces just don't fit. And it feels like shades of last season. The midfield, Gravenberch plus Szoboszlai, the two of them on their own. When I have a front four, when I have this front four anyway, they're going to get overrun in transition.
Yeah.
They're not going to have that. The wing backs, you want them to attack, you need them to attack, but just defensively, they're not going to be able to necessarily do this unless you put a plan in midfield. And Alexander Isak. I just quickly, before because we're going to get into this more in the Gab Juls podcast, but which area do you think is the biggest concern? Midfield, defense, or attack?
Oh, it's midfield for me every day.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree. There's a case to be made for the attack, but we're going to break this down more on the Gab Juls podcast. All right, Dr. Jules. The area that we need to operate on in your view is midfield.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I don't understand how we can be here now on August the 24th and Liverpool still haven't signed a midfielder. They've lost another one in Curtis Jones. We've got Gravenberch and Szoboszlai, plus McAllister who came off the bench. And as you say, Gabby, they are good players. The problem is not the quality of the players. The problem is the way this team is going to play with two very attacking fullbacks. You need more control in that midfield. You need more defensive strength in that midfield, which neither Szoboszlai or Gravenberch has. Neither of them is a 6. Arguably, neither of them is really an 8 either. And okay, you can make a case for Gravenberch a little bit more than Szoboszlai, who Szoboszlai was a attacking wide player, a 10, but certainly not. Again, he runs a lot, he presses well, he's a great player. Again, we're not questioning the quality of the players. But this team was so open. Again, they're not going to play every single weekend against a team as good as this Newcastle team in transition. Sure. But still, that midfield is not good enough and certainly not what this team needs for the way the other players play.
So here's how I see it. I agree with your assessment so far. I don't think McAllister, by the way, certainly if we get last season's McAllister, who seemed to save himself for the World Cup, that's not going to move the needle. But for me, the difficulty is in the formation, because if I have two guys there who are, two specialist, mean defensive midfielders, fine. Then I can carry the 4-2-3-1. For me, if you're going to play 4-2-3-1 with these kinds of attacking fullbacks, and it might change when Connor Bradley's fit, he can give you a little bit more, reads things a little better defensively. If you're going to play that, you have to kind of get it right. And you talked before about how Bournemouth got caught in transition sometimes last year. It takes time to build those mechanisms. Because when Bournemouth were good, the other team didn't see the ball, right? Other than like aimless balls and whatever. But to do that, you need a lot of time on the training pitch. You're not guaranteed to do it. And you're not guaranteed with these players who, let's face it, I think are less dynamic and less physical than the guys he had at Bournemouth. They're better players. And so to me, like, the midfield is definitely an issue. I think Szoboszlai in a 2 is just against a decent team. Doesn't work. Because you know what? You said it doesn't work against a team that plays in transition like Newcastle. Well, it doesn't work against a good team either that's going to have a lot of the ball. Because you do make Szoboszlai have him chase around all over the place.
No, but Liverpool rarely have, play against a team that has 70% of the ball either.
They don't need 70%. But even just a team with more quality that's going to want the ball more, I think it becomes a problem. I wonder if he needs to rethink this. And if you want to play 4-2-3-1, you put Szoboszlai at 10 and you move Wirtz wide. I don't know why that conversation's gone off the table. You can't give up on Wirtz given what you paid for him. But because Wirtz with Isak, and look, it'll be different when Ekitike comes back. Ekitike's a much more aggressive player, much more physical player, even though he's not physical. Isak's obviously bigger than Isak or close to it. But he plays with a lot more energy, right? To me, the issue is in the formation as much as it is, because if you can adjust the formation, now the question is, for Iraola can I adjust my formation? Because I am playing towards replicating what I had at Bournemouth, which is what got me the job here.
Yeah.
Can I do that with a different formation? And I'm not sure he can. I think that's the trade-off. That's what he's weighing up.
Yeah, I don't think he will change the formation. The problem for Iraola as well is that this is a team that will have, like we saw on Sunday, a lot more the ball than his Bournemouth team used to have before. And he used to coach that Bournemouth team to be very good in that verticality in transition. But with the ball, the games where they had more than 50% of the ball last season, they didn't do as well. With this team now, this is a team that has the ball, that plays with the ball, and there's much less verticality than anything before. So even him will have to, in a way, change a little bit, I think, his approach and his philosophy to it. The bottom line is there's a week left in the transfer window, and they still need players to start with, just need bodies. They need more players in these squads. because Victor Munoz did okay when he came on, but he's a squad player, and they just need more body. They need more wingers. They need more midfielders, and then they need players that would probably fit what he wants more. That are fitter, that are better defensively, certainly in that midfield, and probably a fullbacks. But they won't do that. They won't sign 5 players between now and the end of the transfer window.
No, there's no shot.
If they have 2, that will already be a result, I think. So
it was we saw last year, even when they needed one player, i.e. Mark Gay or any kind of semi-competent center back, they ended up screwing it up on the last day of the transfer window and then did nothing in January, and that nearly cost them dear. So I don't follow that. They seem to be all in on wingers. They've been linked with Yakuba Minte. Before that, of course, they were linked with Diomande. They were linked with Barcola. Obviously, there's a type, the very fast, skillful winger who can run at people and run past them. Sure, very good player. Is he better than Cody Gakpo if you want to play a certain way? If he plays, if you have him on the left or if you have him on the right, is he better than what Rio, who isn't even 18 years old yet, can give you? Sure. But even then, I don't know that this is a more serious problem. Than what you described before in the midfield, and maybe even having an alternative at left back, because in certain games, I'm not going to blame Kirkes for the first goal where Elanga runs past him. You're in a foot race with Elanga, right? You're not going to catch him. Yeah. It's just that's fine. He made the right run. But obviously, there's ability there off the ball. And in certain games, you might want to go for a more defensive option. So I look at all this. I look at the signing of Araujo. Talk about adding a body, and I'm wondering what's going on and how much can this hurt them.
I mean, I think if they let Curtis Jones go, they already have a replacement in mind, and I would expect that midfielder to arrive soon. I think for Minte, the deal will happen. Whether it's a good deal or not, he's out for 6 weeks. It's a deal that you could have done much earlier in the summer, because they've liked him from a long time, and they even back in February, March, I was told that he was the one they wanted to replace Mo Salah on that right hand side, and his stats certainly, when fit, have been outstanding in the Premier League in everything, with the ball, without the ball, attacking wise, defensively, all of that. So I can see it, and I think for 60 million, which might be a lot of money for Minte, I'm not saying that they're not overpaying, but I'm just saying this is the players that they want. That's the player that they wanted, that they want now, that Iraola really wants for that right-hand side. So I get that. But it feels really late again. And right now, if at least that starting 11, which looks decent on paper, by the way, it's good. The problem was the depth. If that was working, I think there would be less worries to have, because you would have a starting 11 that is functioning well, that is coherent, that is getting to grip with what the new manager wants, all of that. So, but that's not even the case. So that is the problem. Your depth in your squad is a problem. Your recruitment so far has been an issue, because we have 1 week left in the transfer window and all you brought is Araujo. So, and Victor Munoz, okay, but again, so I don't know. I think that if I was a Liverpool fan, those 7 days, I don't think I would sleep much.
And I'm assuming at this stage you keep Gakpo, right? Because the other thing, let me remind you, the other thing we haven't talked about is Ekitike is out until the new year. This means Isak has to play every game. And if we see the Isak that we've seen now, it's not going to work. So I don't know. I mean, again, had you moved earlier, maybe you think a striker on loan, maybe those are for 6 months until Ekitike is fit again, who just can take some of Isak's minutes away, help him try to regain his form. That's gone out the window, right? Unless you really want to play with Cody Gakpo up front, which is fine. But then you create then you're basically saying, even if Minte comes, unless I'm forgetting somebody, then you're saying my left-hand side is going to be Victor Munoz and Rio.
Yeah.
And they're also going to be my backups. One of them is going to be my backup on the right-hand side, too. They're simply short-handed.
But they might have, they're short-handed. They need players. And maybe they have those deals lined up, by the way. We're saying that a week in a way.
Yeah, maybe it's a strategy to go and do the deal at the end of the window.
But because
they're obviously working on something.
They are, for sure.
If we can see it, they can see it.
So I think you could also hope and stay positive, and just hope that they've got those lined up, and there's a midfielder that will arrive, and a winger, or probably 2 will arrive, maybe another attacking player, and maybe like a fullback that can play either right or left. Like, I don't know, let's say type like a Livramento type. I know he's injured and it won't be him, but you see that kind of guy.
Or Lewis Hall was mooted as well, but that's not going to happen.
No, and he can only really play on the purely
He's played
on the
both
left.
sides.
Yeah, but like Livramento is probably more suited for both. So, but for now, it's not, those signings are not there. And I think what we saw on Sunday, and I think they were a bit, despite good stats and good XG and things like that, they were lucky to get that draw. If Lewis Hall doesn't make that silly foul in the box where Munoz is going nowhere,
Well,
the game they lose that game 2-1, and then it's tough, even tougher.
That's the point I was going to make. Iraola, like I have no issue with stats and analytics. I'm very pro stats and analytics. There has to be a context to it. And Iraola's too smart. When he said, well, we had twice the expected goals and we had 36 touches in the opposition box, he says that completely out of context. He knows that he's talking nonsense. The reason you had twice the XG is because of that penalty at the end, right? That's 0.79 on the XG. That weighs pretty heavily.
Yeah.
That's not down to your sparkling play. It's down to giving away a penalty, which, by the way, could have also not been given. I think it was a correct call, but different referee.
Yeah.
If you put it this, it's the thing that he doesn't give, VAR is not going to step in.
Yeah.
Touches in the opposition box, I think it's a metric that needs to be contextualized. If the opposition sits deep, then it can be a pretty irrelevant stat. How about Yohan Wissa, and to transition to Newcastle, who for me was man of the match? It was incredible to watch.
That suits him as well, this style.
But then he's going to look back and say, man, I also missed two absolute sitters.
Yeah, one especially. The
Allison one.
Yeah.
Well, the other one where he doesn't connect, he's there, man.
But yeah.
You're center forward.
Yeah,
right?
I know. But
I think that's got to hurt him. It's weird that we can speak of him, of his glowing performance.
Yeah.
Those two go in, Liverpool concede 4 goals, and then it's really uphill.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I think it was incredible. Last season was a frustrating season for him with the injury to start with, and then obviously a tough season, I think, for Newcastle overall. Despite the run into the Champions League, which was cool. But this suits him so well to play like that. I think whether he's him, the lone striker, or he plays with Osula behind, he gives you so much. And I think the problem, especially on the chance where Alisson makes the save, and he could have hit it a little bit better. It's a decent save. It's just after running so much and working
gassed.
so hard. Yeah, when you get to the last 15 minutes or 20 minutes of the game, he's going to start to be less lucid in front of goal, which is, again, normal. But yeah, I think if Yasler for him is perfect, and he's perfect for what Yasler wants to do.
Do you think, so this was effectively a 4-2-4, right?
Yeah.
Are we going to see, especially as players come back, as maybe they pick up another midfielder, away from home especially, do you think he's going to continue with 4-2-4?
I think he has one way of playing, really. We watched him for many years now, even in Saudi, and he had success. He won trophies, big ones. But, I think that's very much his DNA. I'm sure he can do different things and stuff like that. But I think that's the way they play. And again, yesterday, even with the crowd pushing them every time to go forward, all of that, they could and should have had more control, especially in that second half. And I just thought the penalty given away by Hall is unfortunate in a way because it's clumsy. But they kind of invited that, I thought, a little bit towards the end, and they will have to correct that because you in the Premier League, especially in the Bundesliga, it's a bit different because it seems like everybody apart from Bayern, I guess, maybe and Dortmund, just play like that. So it's very much the basketball game. In the Premier League, he will have to do a bit different.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how they line up against teams that put like 8 guys in the box. Final point, going back to Liverpool for a minute. You talked about a midfielder. Let's profile what we're thinking or what you're thinking, right? Because we know funds are not unlimited, especially after last summer's spending. Are you thinking of a starting caliber guy who can, maybe be a squad player but can fill in for Gravenberch or McAllister? Or are you thinking about a guy that becomes a starter? And secondly, Where does Szoboszlai go?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need options, you need competition for places too, whether that's Vert and Szoboszlai as a 10 and just pick the best one. And whether
And drop one of them.
Drop one of them or move another one somewhere else.
To the wing, yeah. Verts to the wing.
But I'm not a fan at all.
I know, we disagree on this one.
Verts on the wing at all.
But he has to play somewhere, right?
Well, I guess so, yeah. I would go and spend. I think they've been crying out for a midfielder, and they try Caicedo, which would have been perfect, and obviously missed out on Caicedo 18 months ago. They tried to be Mendy, who again they missed out, and yet those players who were clearly who had the right profiles and the right player for what they wanted in those positions, and then you've just stopped chasing those kind of profiles, which I don't understand.
I'm going to pull a name out of thin air. A guy who did well in Ligue 1 last year. I admired him I'd never seen him in the flesh until the World Cup. Lamine Camara.
Yeah.
Is that the profile?
Yeah, completely. Yeah,
and that's not somebody who needs to start every game if he moves to Liverpool.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But he's probably better in that role, and also frees up Gravenberch to do other stuff too. Because
exactly.
Gravenberch's head playing with Szoboszlai must explode.
Yeah.
Defensively, right? When you've got people running all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's difficult for him. But I think even a Wharton type, those kind of guys, I think would be good for them. And there are a lot of options. I don't buy Buadi would have been great. Buadi is young and Buadi is super expensive, and maybe they don't have that money to spend on a midfielder like that. So maybe Wharton as well is too expensive, maybe. But there are options out there that they could have signed a month ago even.
Would Kamara be substantially cheaper than Buadi?
Yeah. Kamara is now £100 million.
No, but I mean, are we talking like in the 40-50 range?
Yeah. Which they have that money. They must have that money.
But I would rather spend it on that than on Minte, frankly, right now. Because you know what? Because Ekitike is coming back. I know Minte is better, right? But if you have to only choose one, I would choose the midfielder now. You've basically convinced me, because
yes,
I would assume that when Ekitike returns, like Isak's not going away, right? So I think you have to think in terms of the positive, which is Isak will get back to close to the level he was at, but it's going to take time. So it doesn't mean that Isak's going to be relegated to the bench immediately when Ekitike comes back. So that means Ekitike or Isak become an option in a wide area. Both have played there before in the past, right?
Yeah.
And I still have Victor Munoz, who's young, and I have Rio, and I have Cody Gakpo if I don't shift him, and I may need to find a home for Wirtz. Like, you can do a rejiggering there.
Yeah, that's not Iraola's type, though.
It's completely not.
Yeah.
But you know what? You signed him. You knew Isak and Wirtz were there when he arrived. He knew they were there. So he said, I'm not necessarily going to play the way I played at Bournemouth. I'm going to adapt it. He's a very smart guy. I have a lot of faith in him. I hope people will give him the time.